All right, My Muscle Project, welcome back to another episode of In the Black. We have on a guest who has joined us on a Monday show previously, but he's definitely earned some serious stripes in the business world recently. Mr. Marcus Filly, founder of the Philly Press, probably what he's most famous for these days. But in all seriousness, functional bodybuilding is on everyone's lips, everyone's mind at the moment. A lot of people seem to be making the transition out of CrossFit, CrossFit style training. And looking to do a bit more functional bodybuilding, maybe fulfilling the desires of trying to look like Marcus Filly, which I think every man and his dog kind of wishes they had some piece of. But I think it's really exploded since we've last talked, and social media has been like maybe the biggest catalyst for this whole thing. It's been awesome to watch sort of the rise of it. How has it been for you, Marcus, on the other side of where it is now? I think maybe when we spoke about, maybe you were under 100,000 followers, and the page itself, Functional Bodybuilding, was kind of just being born, and now it's absolutely massive in terms of a following. How has it been for you watching that rise?
Well, the first year was just really exciting and sort of caught me a little bit by surprise. I was just trying to keep up with the feedback and the public interest that we were seeing. And what keeping up with it meant was I got to keep making more content. I got to keep writing more programs. And it was just like a year-long work session, which I barely came up for air during. And it was very successful and fruitful in that we sold a lot of programs. We got a lot of people engaged in what we're doing. And I don't regret any of it, although in hindsight, it was totally unsustainable. And that was kind of what I learned in the first year of growing a brand around functional bodybuilding and Awaken Training Series and Revival Strength, the business that kind of houses everything. But if you just to ask me, like, how's it? It's like it felt amazing to have some validation that the years of work that I put in building up some trust with an audience, which was what I felt like I had done as an athlete. It was like, okay, here's the athlete who talks about his training, who's thoughtful about his training, who is really transparent about all aspects of it. He's not just showing all the fancy, cool stuff. It's like, I'm the guy that's on the floor crying at the end of regionals and getting photos and posting that stuff on, social media, just trying to be authentic as best as I could be, because that's what I always believed in from the beginning. That it ultimately got people to say, oh, I want to listen to what this guy is doing, and believe in me enough to, take a training journey with me.
Yeah, it's been one hell of a journey up until this point. It's been also interesting because you've basically made the pivot out of, almost a pure CrossFit audience, which you obviously started with CrossFit Games and stuff. And I remember there was a point where people were wondering, okay, is Marcus going to come test his, functional bodybuilding training program against CrossFit athletes and do the open? And, I think we were at a similar stage as well, where we were losing interest in the competitive CrossFit scene for, different reasons as well. But it hasn't, if anything, you've grown faster than you did when you were in CrossFit, right? When the spotlight was on you as a games athlete, which is really interesting. How have you found your audience kind of change as you've moved out of the competitive CrossFit scene?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, there's two parts to answer that. One, which you didn't really even ask, but I will shed light on it, which is when people are competing in CrossFit, there's not a lot of time to do other stuff. So it's not surprising that guys that are at the peak of the sport, unless they have somebody basically doing their whole business for them, they don't necessarily grow like dramatically in their maybe social media reach, because they're not as reachable as individuals. When I said I'm going to hang up the competition, shoes and focus on business and coaching, I mean, I was available for a lot of stuff. What I realized was that I wasn't available to train as hard as I was before, that the year and a half of working hard to connect with the audience meant I wasn't putting in the time necessary to be elite in the sport. So I didn't even consider going back and competing. I was like, I'm busy doing something else. So the audience change, though, has been interesting because as I've listened to what the audience is asking for, I've given more of that to the social media world and to our email audience. And that is basically, there's a lot of people that are pretty burnt out and broken out there, or have just been following bad training principles, and they're just kind of getting hit with too much intensity. And as a result, the honeymoon phase that they felt for the first 6 to 12 months of doing functional fitness has gone. And now they're just not feeling great. And that audience is connecting with sort of what I'm putting out there, which is a full, not intensity focused approach to training. It's more of a quality approach to training where you can move well, you can look good, you can have all the things that you want to have, and you don't have to smash your face into a brick wall every day. And it's amazing how many people out there are still kind of stuck and addicted to that. I'm sort of one of them. I periodically get these urges to maybe I should try and compete again. And I'm just and then I go out and I hit a couple hard workouts a few days in a row, and I'm like, I feel like shit. I can't even pay attention to what my wife is saying to me right now because I'm still exhausted and tired. So I think we're slowly kind of zeroing in on that audience, that group of people. And as long as there is competitive fitness happening, and there are CrossFit affiliates out there and other group fitness gyms that are just giving people high intensity interval training every single day, there are going to be people that are getting burnt out, injured, and requiring some alternative. And I want to be there to support that audience.
Now, you mentioned before, Revival Strength is housing the umbrella of a few different ways or a few different arms of the business. Could you take us over the different arms of the business and maybe in order of what's most popular to, well, not necessarily the least popular, but maybe isn't as big a part? Because there's many different aspects to what you're doing. And maybe people only use a little bit of them, but can you tell us all the different ones that you're using at the moment?
Sure. Yeah, Revival Strength was the brand that I chose for my coaching business when I started as an individual, sort of a sole proprietor. I left my CrossFit gym. I sold a CrossFit gym. I'm like, okay, I'm starting over as Marcus Philly kind of coaching organization, but ultimately I'm going to have people working with me. It's not going to just be Marcus Philly. It's going to be Revival Strength. Revival Strength was founded on individual coaching, one-to-one remote or on-site coaching. So, write your program, nutrition, training, monthly consultations. That still is a good portion of the pie. It supports 6 coaches that work here who are working with anywhere from 30 to 50 clients each, and they're creating, great relationships with those people and affecting positive change people all over the place. When I started to step back in my role as an individual coach, lowering my client load so that I could support the growth of the business, I still had a lot of people that wanted access to me as a coach. That is what gave rise to Awaken Training Series. They wanted to do my training principles, what I was exposing them to on social media. So Awaken Training Series became my templated group online program. But I never really wanted to depart too far from individual coaching as the core business. So that's why I didn't create a subscription. I didn't say, hey, everyone can come and get involved and I'll just program for you forever. I said, no, here's a 12-week snapshot of what it could be like to be part of Revival Strength. Go try it. Okay. So that's how it started. And then it did kind of take a little a steep curve where people were like, I want to try that. Now, a lot of people tried it. So it became a big part of the business. And we still, for that reason, offer a weekend training series. And there is a good, it's something that now I'm like, okay, we've been doing it for about 2 years, and I want to refresh it, and I want to give it new life, and I want to have people see what my learning for 2 years has been, and how it unfolds to maybe a new series, a new program that comes out. And then the third part of the business is what I call the functional bodybuilding specific courses and programs. So functional bodybuilding was basically it's the founding principles that go into Awaken Training Series. And people got excited about functional bodybuilding, and they want to do it everywhere. People are trying to do it by either following programs or writing them themselves or coaching their clients in their gym. And just like anything, when they have poor direction or they lack direction, it ends up looking just as bad as, a beginner coming in and trying to do snatches on day one, right? So I stepped back and I was like, okay, well, how can I provide people with useful content, courses, products that can help them better understand functional bodybuilding? And this is when I started to create like a warm-up product, a functional bodybuilding 101 course. And most recently got excited about the idea of creating what's going to be like a year-long project of developing movement pattern specific courses where you can come and learn online functional bodybuilding exercise selection for single leg knee flexion. 30 movements from the simplest to the most complex, showing you exactly how to execute the movement, coach points of performance, prescribe tempos, ideal rep ranges, the best movements to pair with those exercises if you're giving them to clients, and then a format of how you could deliver a program using those exercises. So on Black Friday, we launched the first 2 of what will become like a 12 to 14 part series called FBB Exercise Selection. It was single leg knee flexion and upper body vertical pushing. And the combination of those 2, we've sold them to a number of people, and those are coaches or people that are like really enthusiastic about understanding training concepts better for themselves. And a ton of information went into those. So my hope is that this third arm of the business becomes a very prominent and sustainable portion for the future, where I can be a go-to resource for coaches out there that want to enhance their movement exercise selection library, know how to coach it well, know the reason why they're coaching it, and then give proper prescriptions to people in their gym. So, hey, your client's got a bad squat or they need to improve their squat. Well, you only have 2 exercises that you know how to give them to let's expand your movement library. And that's what people love about functional bodybuilding as a social media channel, is that they come and they can learn all these different exercises that they have not seen or maybe have not been exposed to yet. So if we can provide them content on how to do that stuff well, then that's a huge win for the coaches and the athletes out there. And it also helps me feel like I'm expanding beyond just, a program, an online program.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really cool. So what, when it comes to the functional bodybuilding sort of Instagram and the following and that sort of thing, what have you found? Obviously a lot of people out there are very interested in how you grew your following so fast. What are some of maybe what's the plan behind it? What are some of the things you learned along the way? How did you realize I need more of this and less of this? What was sort of the approach?
Yeah. Well, no t-shirts.
Well, no t-shirts, obviously that's mandatory. But beyond that, what were some of the rules or some of the advice or planning that you got around kind of helping to grow that following?
Well, from day one, it's always been about consistency. So having enough content that's getting out there. Okay. And as Instagram has grown and algorithms have changed and more people are using the platform, and there's better content creators that are out there, the requirement of having really like eye-catching content is mandatory now if you want to have, you know, several 100,000 or get to 1 million followers at some point. So always being consistent, you know, 2 to 5 posts a day for the last 2 years has been the norm. There has not been a day I've missed that. My content captions have always been something that has separated me from others in that there's education in them. So now I'm writing a lot more of those, and that's a big part of my daily, you know, my weekly tasks is I'm basically writing blogs, you know, mini blogs every time I write. And I can't do that with my thumbs on here. So it was like, okay, how do I scale up? You know, finding good planning applications that can help, software that can help us organize social media, and then get people on my team involved in, you know, creating better story content, right? And story content is just another really good hack to keep you in people's feeds and on their minds often. So scheduling that stuff out, it just has meant needing to have a lot of content, writing good captions, employing somebody that can take great video and photographs for us, that can constantly upgrade the look of what we're doing. And then having a story that we're telling through it. So it's not just random stuff. It's like we have a launch coming up for our product. Okay, for the month leading up to it, we're going to be dripping out content that helps people understand this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, this is how it can help you. And there have been, you know, it's a constantly changing game too. It's like what worked for me in the first year doesn't work anymore on Instagram. It doesn't help grow the audience. You know, you track Instagram, social media analytics and see how your page is growing. It's like, you know, I could throw up anything and I was growing at like 5,000 to 6,000 people a week back in 2000s. Well, I guess that was early 17. And then Instagram changed some algorithms, like maybe it's been about a year, and that really changed traffic. It was like, okay, to be visible, you need to have different levels of engagement, and just made me and my people on my team here start thinking more about like, okay, what are we putting out there? What's working? So yeah, that's just basically to say like, nobody's figured it out. I haven't figured it out. But at the core of it is educating people, putting out consistent content, and then just being real, like really clear and authentic with the message. Like I don't vary the message too much anymore. I'm very clear and focused on what I want to teach and tell people, and I kind of stay within those boundaries. And I've made the choice to not just randomly show this or randomly show that on my page. I want to keep a clear focus.
And what was the thinking behind, if you're launching a new brand like Functional Bodybuilding, starting from the bottom and launch like a new page for it? I think you might have, I'm not sure if you have 2 or 3 pages now, but it always seems really difficult looking from the outside, man, like starting a brand new page in 2018 and trying to build that up.
Yeah.
What is the thinking behind that?
Yeah, well, when it's going back to what I was saying about having a clear point of view and a clear focus on what you're putting out on your channel. And Marcus Philly, you know, that page was me showing my training journey. It was me showing my personal journey through fitness. And by just throwing up an exercise, you know, like, hey, look at this exercise, me doing this exercise. It was a little bit of a departure from a storytelling about my training methods, my, you know, things that I was doing, what was happening in my life. And it was more like, oh, look at this cool thing. So I was like, okay, well, that's gotta be somewhere else. And to be honest, when I made the choice to make Functional Bodybuilding an Instagram handle, it was kind of like, there was no pressure on me. I was like, if nobody looks at this, who cares, you know? Well, a lot of people started looking at it. A lot of people started following it. And then I was like, okay, now there's pressure to make this look good too. So we came up with a format that looked it's our signature look. It's our signature song that plays, and people are annoyed. They're like, it's the same song every time. Change the song. But it's a clear focus. It's consistent, okay?
Yeah.
And people hear it and they know it. And guess what? If you use Fitbod or True Coach, out there in the world, and there's people listening that use that as a coaching platform, a lot of my videos are on there, and people are playing that around gyms all over the world. And that catchy tune is definitely pulling people's ears, like, oh, that's a functional bodybuilding exercise. So yeah, it was, I tried to start a page for Awaken Training Series, just to highlight what's happening with that. And it didn't go anywhere. So I just abandoned. I just jumped ship on that one. I'm like, okay, I got like 1,000, 1,500 followers, and it was just painful. And I was like, this isn't working. So I haven't touched it since. Revival Strength, that's supposed to be a platform on social media that showcases our individual coaching clients. Okay, that's what it's for. It's not for anything else. And it's not, it's not as big as Functional Bodybuilding or Marcus Philly, but it doesn't need to be. And it's, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, kind of looking towards the future, and, you mentioned it a little bit before with some of the education stuff, but, beyond that, what is exciting for you? Obviously, you just brought another human being into the world, which is awesome. Congratulations. And what else is exciting for you? What do you have on the horizon, say, over the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think I want to, I do want to compete in CrossFit again, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
But I'll be 35 this year. So I'm not going back into the individual open age division. I'm not going to kid myself. Like I don't have the time or maybe the physiological capabilities to get back into that. But I kind of miss the personal journey of, creating a plan to compete. And so that to me is something that I want to do for myself. It's for nobody else. It's a selfish thing, and I want to try and do it. And if I can make it happen, I will. I've loved seeing this business called Revival Strength grow with the people around me, like the gym. My gym here in California is finally turning. I mean, you see it on social media. It looks the way I always wanted it to look, and there's people in it now, and it's got an energy. It's not a sustainable business on its own. So it's supported by having a remote business, having Awaken Training. I want to see this little box right here continue to, grow and be sustainable, and maybe open up other facilities like it, because not a lot of people, not enough gyms are doing individual design, and it's so powerful. Group fitness has its own power, and it's a different power than what we're offering here. So I just want to see it be successful. And I want to see, you said something when we first started. You said functional bodybuilding is on everyone's mind right now. I want functional bodybuilding to be on people's minds in 5 years. And it doesn't have to be the same, excitement and energy that was the first year. I don't think that's possible. CrossFit's not the same excitement and energy as it was in the, 2010, 2012 time period. Maybe overseas it is, but not here. But it's still a conversation, and it's still impacting people's lives. And I want functional bodybuilding to do that, whether it's through Awaken Training Series or if it's through these education courses where instead of having coaches pay $1,000 to go get their, level 1 cert, they're coming and getting FBB certified. Essentially teaching people how to coach movement really well, but not just 9, like 100 different movements, and then understanding how those movements connect for people in a progression, mentality for their clients. I think we can just upgrade how coaches coach movement. So that would be my hope. And I think I have a good team around me, and I think we have created a great start to what we, for the past 2 years, but it's definitely not the end of it for sure.
Not done.
Yeah, that's good. I like it. Very exciting stuff. Awesome. So before we kind of wrap this all up, I think there's been a lot of valuable stuff, but if you were to kind of maybe sum up 1 to 3 big takeaways you've had in your business over the last 2 years, 2 to 3 years, for any business owner, established or aspiring, what kind of takeaways or advice would you give the audience?
Okay. Number one, if you find yourself as a business owner in the position of, a fast, rapid growth, then you do owe it to yourself to put a lot of energy into that and to see it, to take it to its potential. Okay. Even if that means pushing yourself beyond sustainable limits. I think it can and it will, if you're smart, set you up for success in the future. So that was something that I did. And then number two, if you are also in that category of finding yourself in a fast growth phase, that while you're kind of pushing hard to make the most out of that growth, start setting up some, sustainable long-term business practices underneath it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I think taking advantage of that attention, because everything has a shelf life, is super important. Putting that work in early. Marcus, what are the best places that people can find you and follow you and stay in touch with whatever you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, definitely go to revivalstrength.com.
Oh no.